The 2025 Oscars have come and gone with Sean Baker's Anora snagging most of the major awards. Stick around for my thoughts on some of the major wins and other general thoughts on the ceremony, this year hosted by the great Conan O'Brien. It was an interesting year without any major upsets, but there are certainly things of note and worthy of discussion. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Sean Morgan and I love movies. I also love the Oscars. I watch it every year. It's one of my most anticipated yearly traditions. This year was a decent awards ceremony overall, despite some controversies surrounding many films. Emilia Perez was hit with the most firepower, undergoing criticisms for poor representation from Mexican and trans people. Um, and of course, it had a massive PR crisis when old racist tweets from Carlos Sofia Gascon resurfaced. She is, of course, the titular Emilia Perez, so that was a fire impossible to fully put out. Films like The Brutalist and Anora face their own controversies for things like The Brutalist's use of AI during parts of production and Anora's lack of intimacy coordinator on set. None of these various barbs kept any of those films from walking away on Hollywood's biggest night with at least one award under their belt. Conan O'Brien was a great, goofy host. I've always loved him and thought he was brilliant, delivering the right, mix of seriousness and humor that still felt respectful of the work that the craftspeople in the movie business do on a daily basis. Let's get to some of the awards, however. Anora's Best Picture win, if we're going to start with the biggest award of the night. This win was not particularly surprising. Many outlets predicted its chances were good ahead of the ceremony. It's worth noting, though, that movies like Anora are not typically the traditional Oscar films. Anora feels like a film that in years past would maybe only win like original screenplay, maybe, and not much else. Um, Sean Baker actually, I believe, made history as the only person to win four Oscars in one evening for the same film. Sean Baker won in his capacity as producer when Anora won Best Picture, and Baker also won Best Director and Best Editing. He edited the film himself, and he also won Best Original Screenplay. So it was a massive evening for Anora. Honora herself, Mikey Madison, also won Best Lead Actress. This was kind of the major upset of the night, if I had to pick one. Most people assumed that Demi Moore would walk away with a win for The Substance. I personally think it would have been nice to see Demi Moore win, but I can't say that Madison was necessarily undeserving either. Lead actor went to Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, another very deserving performance. Timothy Chalamet gained some ground as Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. This was just before the ceremony. Chalamet was kind of gaining traction, but he wasn't not able to snatch the award away from Adrian Brody there. I have a hard time feeling bad for Chalamet, though, as I do think he will probably get an Oscar in his career and probably pretty soon. He's still very young. There's plenty of time. You know, Dune 3, if it follows the trajectory of Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, another kind of massive conclusion to a trilogy. Maybe Chalamet will get an acting nod there. Not very likely. Sci-fi films don't usually get acting nominations, but a guy can hope. Um, as far as other brutalist people, Guy Pearce, Brody's co-star in the film, did not join Adrian Brody in victory. Supporting actor went to Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, which was no surprise to anybody. Culkin has been on a tear this year. The supporting acting category is always really, really strong for both men and women, but men especially these last few years. So it's hard to argue there. Um, Let's move on to some of the other categories here. Best makeup and hair went to The Substance. Speaking of stacked categories, this was a big one, in my opinion. I have a hard time arguing with the win for The Substance, though I did think that Nosferatu and A Different Man were both fantastic in terms of hair and makeup. I adored both of those movies. Highly recommend both. Best costume design went to Wicked, which was okay by me. I figured, even though I liked Wicked, I didn't love it, but I figured it would walk away with some awards here. The costumes were quite good, though that's another category where I was rooting for Nosferatu a little bit just because of my love of that particular movie. But, Wicked winning Best Costume Design, fair enough. Hard to really be mad about that. Original score went to The Brutalist, which I think was the most deserving out of the nominated films. I think it's crazy, for example, that Challengers was shut out of the award ceremony entirely, but especially in this category, Best Original Score. Um, I also think it's ridiculous that somehow Wicked was eligible for original score and nominated, in fact, but something like Dune Part 2 was shut out. Like Wicked uses a lot of musical cues from the original Broadway musical, of course, but somehow that's allowed to be nominated at the Academy Awards. Dune Part 2 was not eligible because it allegedly, reused too much of the score from Dune Part 1. That seems a little arbitrary. I don't know where the line is drawn there, but that particular dichotomy is absurd to me. But what are you going to do? The Brutalist, great score. Can't really argue there. Adapted screenplay went to Conclave, which everyone online was predicting, probably one of the most locked in awards of the evening. The wonderful Nickel Boys, I would like to shout out that film here. That was a film that I think, I would have been pretty happy had that kind of pulled an upset and won. But Conclave was great too. So, that's another award, frankly, where I can't really be super mad about it. And I am actually realizing now that there's a major acting category that I did not mention, that being Zoe Saldana winning for supporting actress and Emilia Perez. Most people figure that Saldana would win this award, as she has been winning all season at other award shows. And listen, I think Zoe Saldana is good in Emilia Perez, regardless of my general kind of shrugging of the shoulders in regards to the rest of that film. I didn't hate it as much as most people did, but I also think there are a lot of things about it that does not work. This is actually the best supporting actress category is a situation where I actually would have personally gone with Wicked. I thought Ariana Grande in Wicked was kind of like a bolt of lightning in that movie. She totally won me over, and I was pretty skeptical of whether or not she was going to deliver when I sat down in the theater for that film. I think that film kind of falls apart quite a bit without her like huge level of just like charm and how dedicated she is to that performance. But that's neither here nor there. And maybe she'll win next year for Wicked for good. We'll see about that. International feature, moving on here, went to I'm Still Here. I'm Still Here is an amazing film out of Brazil that you should absolutely check out if you haven't seen it. It's only in theaters right now, but it will likely hit Netflix and VOD soon, given its win. It's very moving, based on real events. And I mean, gosh, I don't really want to get into the meat of what it's about if people aren't familiar, but I found it very, very effective. I was able to see it just 2 days before the ceremony, and I was very, very glad that I sought it out. The Incredible Flow won Best Animated Feature in a major win for independent film. Flow was worked on by a very small crew, made with free software, and contains no dialogue. It's one of my favorite movies that I saw this year, and it's currently, I believe, on Max as of the time of this recording. I highly recommend that people check it out. I mean, it's an animated movie that beat out the likes of Netflix and Disney and DreamWorks. When does that ever happen if you're not, Hayao Miyazaki, right? This is kind of an incredible, momentous occasion. Um, Moving on a little bit further, we have Best Documentary, which went to the film No Other Land, a documentary that still does not have an American distributor attached, which I think is shameful. I have been able to see the film, and I think it covers very important subject matter. The two directors gave, in my opinion, the best speech of the evening. Um, I also will shout out the documentary Sugarcane, which was a fellow nominee this year. I highly suggest that you watch Sugarcane as well. Sugarcane is on both Disney Plus and Hulu. But be aware that if you're going to seek out No Other Land, or if you're going to watch Sugarcane, both of those films cover very sensitive topics. Many of the documentaries this year and in years prior, frankly, the documentary category at the Academy Awards is typically they cover sensitive issues generally. But I do feel the need to make that kind of blanket statement. They are kind of distressing in certain respects. Um, but that's neither here nor there. I won't get into it as to not upset potential viewers, and so that this video can remain seen by people on YouTube. Let's see here. Best visual effects and best sound went to My Beloved Dune Part 2. Best cinematography went to The Brutalist. Best production design went to Wicked, and best original song went to El Mal from Amelia Perez. I don't have an issue with any of those particular awards, apart from that final one, where El Mal won best original song. I think out of the films nominated, Like a Bird from Sing Sing was objectively the best of the bunch. My favorite soundtrack of the year, where I would have plucked out songs to nominate for best original song, my favorite soundtrack of the year was from I Saw the TV Glow, but that's a whole other conversation entirely when it comes to snubs in that regard. Um, Starburned and Unkissed, I believe, is the name of the song that has been on repeat from that particular film. It's just like constantly on repeat in my brain and on my computer. So, uh, if you have not seen I Saw the TV Glow, I highly recommend that as well. Moving on to things that were not awards presented, but things that were also in the ceremony. I thought the Quincy Jones tribute was fine, even though I wish that they focused on more of his films. I would have loved, for example, some Austin Powers dancers to come out or something like that. Uh, I thought the James Bond tribute was nice in theory, but the artists performing the Bond songs seemed kind of picked at random. I was surprised that they didn't really bring out, some of the living artists to perform the songs that they own. Like you could have maybe brought out Adele to do Skyfall, or you could have brought out Billie Eilish, something like that. Um, it just seemed strange in that regard, and it also seems strange to celebrate the franchise right after it was absorbed by the machine that is Amazon. Um, and then another kind of weird spot for me throughout the night was the in memoriam segment. The song choice felt far too ominous, in my opinion. There may be a context where that piece, in its original context, is super sad and weepy, but to me, I feel like for the last few decades, it's only been used in films to connote like bad guys and like villainous stuff. So I thought it was a weird pick for the in memoriam segment. And there were also some glaring omissions from the montage there, namely Michelle Trachtenberg and Tony Todd. And my personal opinion is also that more time should have been dedicated to the Titan that is David Lynch, who honestly, he changed movies forever. He's also one of my favorite filmmakers, so I admit my bias there. But I was very, very bummed in that regard that more lip service was not paid to what he meant to the history of film. Um, but all in all, I thought that this year was a mostly good ceremony with no huge upsets that made me feel angry or like things were being unjust. Um, frankly, I already can't wait for next year, and we may be getting our first Buzzy Awards film with Mickey 17 this upcoming weekend. The newest film from Bong Joon Ho. I will definitely be seated for that one for sure. But thank you so much for watching. What did you think of this year's Oscars? Let me know your most enraging snubs, or if you were thrilled that your favorites won. Feel free to like this video or subscribe to the channel for my thoughts on more theatrical releases as they come out. I've yet to cover, for example, things like Paddington in Peru, Hard Eyes, or The Monkey, all of which I'm looking forward to diving into. I've seen Paddington in Peru and Hard Eyes at this point. I've still not yet seen The Monkey, but excited to kind of dissect all of those. Very interesting for very different reasons. But again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay safe. Bye.